Welcome to Trending Thursday. My name is Ryan. It's always a pleasure, giving these videos here. All right, just put a VV in the comment section if you can hear me, if you can see me. Let me make sure that I got my chat on here. All right, thank you, Greg, for that. Where? Scoot this over here. All right, you can hear me, you can see me. All right, first and foremost, let's let everyone pile into the room here. The alert should be hitting in just a moment, but you can see that gauge right at the top here. We got 3 green lights right now. The market's looking bullish. And I will say this, sorry if I'm not very loud. About an hour and a half ago, I popped my ear, doing some pressure, and I feel like I got vertigo right now. So if I seem a little off, seem a little woozy, or have to cut the stream a little short, I will definitely let you guys know. But I just want to give you that heads up just in case I don't seem all there today. Or all here today, I should say. See, it's already happening. But I will tell you this. There are a couple good things I do want to share with you. Tonight's presentation, tonight's 6 p.m. video, I did some research on Micron. I found exactly what they are doing and why the stock has had so much momentum behind it. So make sure you check out tonight's video on Micron. Great. I will say most of it is going to be, news articles and explaining the company. But, then we'll go into the VectorVest 7 system and check out the chart as well. But that being said, we're going to move ahead. We could see, the optimism there in the market. So let's see, what's causing some of this optimism in the market. I'm going to, let's check out some news stories here. And again, if you're just tuning in, I just gave a heads up to everyone that essentially I feel like I got vertigo right now. I popped my ear. And normally, normally you feel a little woozy for like 5-10 minutes tops, but this was almost 2 hours ago. So if I seem a little off today or a little slow, that's why. All right, let's see here. All right, these are the stories I got for you today. The first one is going to be AI is doing 30 to 50% of the work at Salesforce, right? So you can see exactly why AI is important. Obviously, CRM or Salesforce here, and other companies are looking to trim cost, right? AI is going to be a valuable way to do so. Bill, I will be shortly after this live stream. I already gave Joey, Clay, and management here a heads up. I'll be going home to rest after that. But, AI, it's still crucial, right? And as long as it looks like you need air, Keith, I don't think it can get any shorter, can it? Yes, I did go clean shaving today. But, AI, think about it this way, right? If companies are trying to compete with each other, they have to be efficient, right? AI is the way to get there. And we all know that. AI is not going around anywhere. But you can see, look, software company has reached about 93% accurate with the technology. So they're becoming more efficient, more accurate. John says, I need AI to do about 30% of my daily exercise for me, right? Can we get those Tesla robots to do our exercise for us, right? But yeah, just, this is, before we were talking about AI and, how it can be utilized and the importance of AI. But AI is going to make it very crucial for us to compete in other countries around the world. Because think about it, places like China, Philippines, their cost of doing business is lower, right? That's why, a lot of companies, move their manufacturing over to different parts of the world. AI can help the United States become more efficient and cut costs, trim costs, things of that nature. So I just want to put out there, I thought this was a really cool article. Another one here, circle here. When AI can find me safe, high dividend paying stocks, that would make my day. AI is nothing but information technology on steroids. Pretty much, yes. Pretty much just info tech on steroids and, maybe better utilization of that info tech. Jojo says AI agents ramping up now. Yes, they are. But yeah, crypto, this momentum that we're seeing in crypto here, This, for some reason, has BTC, which is slightly down today, but Circle, again, it's a stable coin, right? And USDC. It's not even the largest stable coin out there by market cap. It's the second largest. The first one's going to be Tether. Well, at least I'm sure that's still the case. I only looked at it like 3 weeks ago, and Tether was extraordinarily larger by market cap than USDC, which Circle's the one that owns that. USDC, in my opinion, treat it like a momentum play right now, because I don't know if you watched the video, but ultimately the backing behind that stable coin, essentially it's all in treasuries, right? So that's how they make their money, off these treasury notes and collecting interest off the backing. But you can see, look at this. Shares of Circle have skyrocketed more than 600% in its IPO. So, it's crypto related. It's got IPO. It's technology, right? So a lot of reasons why, retailers and other, investors have pushed that stock up. But I'm going to say at this point, at over $200, be careful, especially if you're one of the early ones to get in. We'll take a look at the chart and see, what kind of critical levels to look out for there. But me personally, I'm going to put it in the way overvalued category. And me, I even like Coinbase. I'm a big crypto person. But just be careful with this one, right? Now let's jump over to this. I thought it was a good story. And one of the reasons why I think, tech stocks, again, leading the charge today. If you take a look here, treasury yields fall as concerns grow over Trump's criticism of Powell, right? That tension between Powell and Trump, not to get political, but it's going to put pressure on interest rates, right? Interest rates of treasury yields. Well, if treasury yields are falling, that makes the stock market a little bit more attractive, and in particular, growth stocks. So I see this as a contributor, you could say, to why things like semis and other AI risk-related stocks are still surging right now. All I'll get from AI is, what does safe mean? I'm not really sure. Powell is holding, I think. Now, as far as, I'm not going to speculate on whether or not he's going to replace Jerome Powell, but I have a feeling if Jerome Powell, doesn't give Trump the interest rate cut that he's been wanting, we all know about this situation, he might get the axe. Who knows? But that's just my personal opinion. And this is another one here. Emily, how is Glenn? Glenn's recovery is coming along nicely. It's coming along nicely. Trying to keep Glenn, out of the forefront so that way he can get rest. His wife's doing a fantastic job being by his side and taking care of him. Safe means buying undervalued stocks rising in price for me, right? Hey, that's the VectorVest motto. That's the motto I want to live by. So going back to semiconductors and the cost of doing business, right? I thought this was an interesting article. Trump Organization scraps made in the USA tag. And I remember you guys talking about in the comments section, I think it was last week or the week before when this news first broke, that there's no way. I was even, skeptical of that just because, I follow a lot of semiconductors and, but it's probably going to be made in Shenzhen. Let's call it a spade a spade. So again, if you're just, tuning in here, I've got some vertigo right now. I believe it's vertigo. So I'll be leaving shortly after the stream. Emily says, why do you think MU is falling despite blowing earnings? Profit taking. The stock doubled. Tonight's video, 6 p.m., it's on Micron. Spoiler alert, majority of the video is not in the VectorVest 7 system or the chart. It's actually just learning what Micron does. But the more research I did into Micron this morning, the more I like the company. I'm almost going to put it in my ARM category. I'm being, sorry, again. I've been a big, I don't want to say, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm going to put it in the ARM category because of the partnerships, but definitely check out tonight's video. If you felt like you're too late for the Micron momentum, or if you're holding Micron, you just want to, get some guidance, see what the company's actually doing, see what big projects are in the works, and see the importance of the company. Because after the research I did this morning, and I put some stories across the top, try to explain it in simplest terms here, but it all comes down to AI inference and memory chips, and they're going to be a key player there, and they've got some really big partnerships. But yeah, as far as this here, again, United States cannot make a lot of things at a decent price, right? So that's where the importance of China, that's where the importance of a lot of the Asian, South American companies coming from, and we're at no surprise here. I think the iPhone is gonna be a couple thousand if everything got moved over to United States manufacturing, and that's a problem going forward, right? Especially I've been looking at some of the details on China. China's made it very clear with some of the press releases or whatnot. They had a meeting conference this past weekend that they're going to try to distance themselves and be less reliant on Washington. So that's going to put some pressure on some of our manufacturing, right? So just keep that in mind here. MU down due to poor PC and phone demand. Their PC and phone demand, I could see that, but that's not going to be the biggest growing factor for them. At least after the research I did here, it's going to be AI data centers. And they've got a key component, HBD type chips. HBD is high bandwidth device. So again, this is going to be a tough live stream. But there's some information I want to give you. I thought this was interesting, though, but still, again, we've got manufacturing concerns here in the United States. Now, as far as my my shield holders, defense stocks in general, I talked about this yesterday on the live stream. NATO leaders set ambitious 5% defense spending target. Last night's video I wanted to do on defense stocks, but I've been putting out those quite a bit. So we'll probably get another defense stock video coming out soon, just making sure that those stocks, are trending up, and then we keep you on the right side of the trend of these stocks. But I was looking at DFIN today. It's in the watch list I put together. It's up like 5%. So this news coming out only going to help those stocks. Now, something that shortly after I did the Micron recording this morning, and just from a personal experience here in Charlotte, North Carolina, we've been getting messages like crazy, emails, text messages talking about power consumption. Cut your power consumption during this heat wave. We've had blackouts in certain parts of North Carolina. We had a blackout in South Charlotte near Myers Park not too long ago. I think that was yesterday, according to the text message I saw. And you can see here, look, data center surge, but U.S. grid chokes on hardware bottlenecks, right? They're trying to catch up. So the demand here is going to be for critical electric equipment supply, right? And I know we've seen electrical sector come up in some of the top RT sectors here. Boston says my power went out at 2 a.m. for no reason. So yes, the grid is aging. It's all about the grid. They got to revamp the grid. And Europe's got the same problem here. You see Spain 2025 blackout and the real lessons for renewable grids. So you can see it wasn't caused by too much solar or wind, but by outdated grid rules, weak voltage control, and poor coordination of system assets, right? Exposed gaps in transmission planning, real-time control. But essentially, our grids are getting old. They've got to be revamped. They've got to be taken to the next level, going forward here, especially with the rise in AI data centers. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on the grid. You can see Roger here, alert notices received here in Central Ohio as well. We have 3 data centers supposed to go in over the next. Yeah, here in North Carolina, we got data centers popping up everywhere. And, if the grid can't handle 100-degree weather and we ain't got the data centers yet, they got to fix it before the data centers come, right? Because that's not going to work out too well at all. They're wanting to build a data center in our town here too, Mooresville. Really? In Mooresville? That's like right up the street, Boston. I didn't realize there was one. Do you know which company it is? But we've got quite a bit here. Hopefully it pumps uranium. Yeah, no, obviously the energy side of things, but it's the grid. You can put enough, you can put all the nuclear power plants and renewable energy out there, but we got to redo the grid at some point. And I don't know what's in the as far as the grid and the bill, the big beautiful bill, but I really hope in that bill there is going to be some investment, so domestic investment in the grid, because if we're gonna compete against China, we gotta have the grid. Who makes the grid? What's the symbol? LOL. So again, I've got a case of vertigo right now, so and that kind of started right after I came across this subject in general. So I've got a couple stocks in the list, one being a local player here in North Carolina, Duke Power. But I have a feeling next week I'm going to do a video on electrical supply, grid stocks, who's going to benefit from, big grid contracts, right? As we, tackle that problem. That's going to be a huge problem going forward, especially, if we don't resolve it sooner than later. Now, let's go back into the software. All right, we see the major indices. Yeah, they're in positive territory today. We got yields lower, markets up. I like what I see here as far as Midas touch. I mean, CRS, the usual suspects here. And apparently, look, Korea's already on the electric power bandwagon. I didn't even see that till just now. Maybe check this one out, but I have a feeling it might be in Korea. I don't know. Actually, let's do this. If you don't know what a stock does, here's a little trick for you. Just right-click. View full stock. Yeah, a lot of it's going to be in the utility side, Michael. A lot of it's going to be utility side. But when I'm feeling better, probably not tomorrow, just because I've got some other live streams and stuff. I'm thinking next week. I want to take a look at these grid stocks. I want to look at the charts, look at the news, see what's going on, so you can get good contracts. Korea Electric Power Corp engages in the development of electric power resources. It can operate through the following business segments: transmission and distribution. That sounds like grid to me. That sounds like a grid to me, right? Electric power generation, nuclear, electric power, non-nuclear, plant maintenance, engineering service, and others. So, yeah, that's probably going to play the space here. Again, I can't attest to that as 100% fact. And just by the name here, probably most of the exposure's in Korea. I don't know if they do a lot of U.S. stuff, but I'll look into the stock, actually, especially since it just popped up number 3 on the Midas Touch. That's just kind of random because I did not know the stock was here. So let's go to the viewers tab. These are the stocks I've got for you today. I've got the grid stocks here: NextEra, AES, Duke Energy. Those would be the 3 that I've got here for. We see some optimism here when it comes to AES, up 3.25%. Ryan, with this heat, we lose lots of electrolytes. Yes, I've been drinking a lot of water today. But again, it's really just when I blew my nose, I had some ear pressure. And this, again, about 2 hours ago. It normally, it takes about 5 minutes, to get back to normal, but it just ain't getting back to normal. There are massive new insurance requirements for the Treasury market. If the Fed eases capital requirements, this may help. Interesting. Okay. Wow, SoFi is doing well. I have to look at SoFi. Don't let this slow you down. This too shall pass, Ryan. Just don't move too fast. You might fall. I think Boston was telling me that. Don't bend over too fast. Oh, yeah, that was maybe a little too quick right there. So, yeah, I would take it easy after this live stream. But, again, as far as the grid stocks, which is the bottom 3, the electrical component stocks here, early stages of the research. I'm hoping to get a good video out to you next week if the stocks look good, things like that. But we're going to take a look at these 3, see what we got here. But at the top of the list, look at that. Defense at the top of the list. We got Defend, Shield. SOXL was based off of the Treasuries decline, right? So if interest yields are decreasing, right, that makes the stock market look more attractive. It makes growth stocks look more attractive, right? We're seeing a lot of optimism. NVIDIA hitting new highs. Micron took a little pop. I saw it pull back. Well, actually, let me put in Micron here. But tonight's video, again, it's all about Micron. All about Micron. There's some key levels there I'd pay attention to when it comes to Micron, especially if it does pull back, because there's a lot of profit taking right now at Micron. The stock was, doubled in like a month and a half. So I'm not surprised that we're getting profit taking right at that doubling. But you can see it's still undervalued here. But as far as the momentum plays, it's Defend, SOXL, Shield, another Global X Defense ETF here. But SOXL, I like SOXL. It's triple leverage, right? So if you follow semiconductors, if you follow tech, if you got time to be a trader, swing trader, this might be a good play here as well. As far as Salesforce, up 1%. This is the big pop today. It's going to be Circle Internet Group, up 10%, right? But look at the RV relative value. The lowest in the bunch by far. We only value it at $20. I think the IPO was, $40? So this thing has, retail traders, momentum traders. They've just propelled this thing, into another into the stratosphere. So just keep that in mind. If you're holding Circle, trust me, I'm a big fan of stable coins here, but this is a little bit overvalued for my blood. But I will say this, and I've said it before, if a stock is overvalued and there's momentum behind it, and I'm thinking about getting into it, at least better have some really good forecast data. And you can see this forecasted data even blowing Micron out of the water here. 58% on the sales growth rate, 16% respectively on the earnings growth rate here. So, just be careful there. I want to take a look at some of these charts. All I'm going to say about Micron is because we're doing the 6 p.m. video tonight on it. Value on the rise, price action on the rise. I like what I see here when it comes to Micron. I'm going to say jump in on a down day today. No, I even say that in the video tonight. But there's some key levels here I want you to keep in mind going forward. And more importantly, I'm going to teach you a lot about Micron tonight, exactly what it is they do, why the company's so important, and some of their main partnerships. That was pretty shocking to me, and that's why I'm going to put in the ARM Holdings category. And even, maybe, I've coined it before, the semiconductor mafia, and I think Micron might be one of the newest members of that semiconductor mafia. Again, that's TSM, NVIDIA, AMD, ARM Holdings. So definitely, check out that if you're interested in Micron. But here's DFIN. We got a little wick at the top here. Let's go to 3 months. I'm going to take off valuation here. It's an ETF. But again, the 20-day EMA. Oh, look at that. I can already tell. It retested it from the bottom end. That's a dangerous sign right here. If we get a lot of rejection, especially if we break that 20-day EMA, these stocks might take a breather here soon. So if you're a swing trader, if you plan on doing this just for the short term, just be careful of this, again, because we got several touches from the top, right? And now we're getting a touch from the bottom, right? So if we get rejection here, especially if we break, about $45 on that 20-day EMA, we got $44.93. For the short-term traders, be careful with that pullback. If you're long-term on DFIN, a little pullback in the grand scheme of things, probably not going to, ruin your day too much here. Ryan, how can RT on Circle only be 1.55 with the run it's had? We'll take a look at that. I'm going to take a look at that. I would think it'd be a little bit higher. But I did see on that article, I did have a pullback there at some point. So we'll take a look and see what's going on here. SOXL, momentum to the upside. I mean, it's well above its 20-day EMA. You could see probably right in here, maybe some resistance coming in. So yeah, I still see a little bit upside potential here in SOXL before, any real resistance come in place. How far will CoreWeave fall? That's hard to say, because a lot of these stocks, again, have just been consumed by momentum traders, and, valuation is not important with some of these companies, right? Just making a buck off the stock price. So I'm going to stick to the technicals, and I'm not going to guess or try to predict. We can take a look at the chart. I'll put some key levels there that might point you in the right direction. All right. Let's see here, but that's SOX. I mean, it still looks good though. And actually, let's put in RT. You see RT here at 1.84, so a lot of momentum there. And again, RT right when it crossed above 1. See, RT is at 1.18. This was back in May. That really showed us some optimism there. Now we got the retest on the 20-day EMAs, another little retest here. But right now we're diverging away from that 20-day EMA. I like what I see. If we do get a pullback here, my retest level is probably around 22.65. You can see here, look around this zone, and just keep that in mind. If we do get a pullback, if you're thinking about getting an SOXL, look for the pivot back to the upside, right? If we get a clear break to the downside, obviously I'm not going to buy it if we get a clear break. But if you're holding it, again, I don't know exactly what your objectives are because everyone's a little bit different. But I would be getting a little bit more defensive if we, did a retest and then just broke this retest level. Here's Shield. Actually very similar to the DFIN chart, right? Look at this. Broke it. Now retesting it. Actually looks like it went right back above. But yeah, as far as Shield, I want that close today above this trend line. I want to hold on that trend line. Otherwise, the 20-day EMA, why overthink it? The 20-day EMA, not only this defense ETF, but the other one, DFIN, very clear, strategy working here, keeping you in the trade. Nice full body candlestick. And it's not retesting it from the bottom. See how it broke above it? So, if we get a big upper wick, some rejection here later in the day, I don't have a crystal ball. But right now, I like this optimism I see here. It's just defend making me a little bit nervous right now. So you see the retest, but we didn't break above it like shield, right? We got that upper wick, potentially some rejection there. But, potentially. It's not there right now. I'm not saying go get defensive on defense right now, which is ironic of play of words, right? But just keep that in your mind if you're holding defense. Still above the 20-day EMA, so I'm not too concerned. CRM, Salesforce here. Let's take a look at Salesforce. Let's go on a 1-year chart. Let's look at value. Look at that. The stock overvalued. Price action came down. Now the stock is undervalued. It's actually went back above the 20-day EMA. It looks like it retested there with a little bottom wick. It did, and now we're getting a pop here. This actually might be a really good trade setup in general right now as far as momentum player. Growth rate and earnings is on the decline, but it went from 19 to 17%, so nothing, real crazy there. Sales growth rate flat, 8%. These numbers aren't, get me all excited. Earnings per share on the rise, RT relative timing just now becoming favorable once again. Looks like I wanted to retest that oscillation point here, but you can see it did climb today at 1.04, so possibly early entry on CRM. If I go back out to a year here, yeah, as far as kind of a bottom fishing on CRM, probably not a bad level, to start opening up a position in CRM, especially with some optimism above that 20-day EMA, and the stock's just currently undervalued right now. So I do like that about Salesforce. All right, here's Circle. So was maxed out, looks like. Two. So it did have 2 days of 2 back here. Hit its high. You could see the wick here, that momentum. And as well, going from, less than 40 to 200, right? Really quick right here. See how the RT started out 111? Real quick pop. RT maxed out, right? And once it got to 200, that momentum, at least as far as a percentage base, started slowing down a little bit. RT still maxed out here. But by the time we got the upper wick. So, yeah, that's why it's 1.55. So they went from 300 to 200 in 2 or 3 days. So this thing, is rocking and rolling here. Coin analysis calling for 500. Dave, is that $500 on Circle? And I will say this, a Coinbase analyst is probably going to be a little, what's the word I should say? Bias, right? Me personally, you see the valuation here, $20, 2062, and this is not your traditional company by any means. It's USDC, and that's the thing. The USDC can only make so much money. You're just collecting yields off of treasuries, which is backing the stable coin, right? And that's their crown jewel is USDC. Look at the market cap growth. If you got Coinbase, you probably just Google it, Cointelegraph. There's a million websites out there. If you're following Circle, look at the growth in the market cap. I've mentioned this before. That is going to be the key factor, for me at least, in seeing if price action of this momentum to the upside is actually justified, okay? Cool. NVIDIA call just stopped out. 85% gain in 23 days. Congratulations, Roger. Congratulations here. Ward says Dell. Ward, what do you mean by Dell? What do you mean by Dell? The computer maker? Here's an extra energy. Let's go out to a year. That doesn't look very pretty. All right. Well, I will say this. The stock was way overvalued. You see the divergence between the valuation and the price, but now it's undervalued. It is trending down. It broke below its 20-day EMA, so I can't get too optimistic right now. There's definitely a huge resistance level here. Right around this area here, probably up to here as well. So you got a touch here. You got a touch over here. Interesting. Let me move this over here so that you guys can see a little bit better. There we go. That way I'm not blocking the chart and the indicators. One interesting aspect of coin is that it charges for every transaction, crypto or stable coin trade, somewhat like Visa or MasterCard. Yes, for more. You know, if once you get into the decentralized world, you know, and if you know what gas fees are or anything like that, I gave up on that, you know, years ago, because once you're in decentralized crypto world, which is, you know, really what it's meant for, the gas fees were crazy. So unless you were moving large sums of money, which, you know, crypto is pretty black market in general, right? You know who moves large sums of money. I didn't find it very beneficial by any means with the gas fees that I was charging, right? But yeah, they charge on every transaction of crypto. So, you know, when Bitcoin hypes up, you know, Ethereum, XRM, all these, you know, crypto communities hype up. A lot of people buying and selling on Coinbase. Yeah, that's going to make them more money. So that's why when you see XRP, you know, roaring, or, you know, Bitcoin roaring, Litecoin, whatever it may be, Stellar, that's going to generate revenue for coin, and that's why you typically see coin, you know, have a, you know, pretty good correlation with crypto in general. I was looking at Calm a couple of days ago, then I forgot about them till today. Humanoid ETF just came out. Is that like a humanoid robot thing? Let me write that one down here. Where's my pen? Here we go. I gotta get my pen here. And John, what was that other stock you wanted me to look at? Sorry, I was gonna do it today, but as you can tell, I'm not quite all there right now. I just feel like a little woozy from the IDCC. That's what it was. Okay, gotcha. All right, John, I got you. Well, I'm feeling better. I'm going to take a look at those here. But a humanoid ETF, because, I mean, robotics is going to change the game. It's going to change the game. We're never at a point in human history have we been able to make our own labor, right? We've always depended on human labor to get jobs done. Don't know what the job was, but now we've got AI, we've got robotics, and we're going to see how all that plays out, right? I don't know if you saw... It was Elon Musk, I think it was a Saudi Arabia, one of the wealth funds, or maybe UAE, Dubai. But they're saying that they would not be surprised by, you know, 2040, 2050, forget exactly what the year was, but in the future, that there might be universal basic income, right? So if robots take all the jobs, you know, that's not going to work out too well for the labor market, right? The labor market's been replaced. So interesting. But as far as next era energy here, I see rejection right at these levels. I'm not going to get too optimistic. Again, I'm doing a little bit more research on the electrical in grid stocks, and I'm going to find out what are the best stocks, what's the most undervalued, what's got the best forecasted data, those things. We're going to put out a video on it, so that way you guys can put it on there. Ryan, check out who Roundhill put in the fund human. Okay, so it is a Roundhill ETF. Interesting. But as far as growth rate, 15%, sales growth rate, 5%. For this space here, utility, those aren't bad numbers for utility, right? We can see here, the hit its high back at $85. Not a whole lot going on right now, so we can pass this one. AES, utility, electric here, value on the decline, price action on the decline, right? And I will say this, if I can get price action, we'll do freehand line, to go up and surpass this high right here. If I get price action to surpass this high right here, that's going to be the infant stage of my favorite chart pattern, right? Price action on the rise, value on the rise. If that happens, put it on your radar. Other than that, it's got rising earnings. I like it. RT, not favorable quite yet. Not favorable quite yet. But look, we got, is that a head and shoulders? I mean, freehand line, we got a shoulder, little head, little shoulder here. That might be head and shoulder on a downtrend, right? So yeah, see what happens. I put this one on your radar. This might be an interesting play. I'm not gonna say, today per se, but this stock was $20 before. Now it's only at 1083, and we're valuing it at 15. So just from a prior price action, from valuation, I actually like this a lot. Forecasted data, nothing too crazy here. But a little early on this stock, but we might have something to work with here soon. We'll see how that plays out next week when I put this video together. All right, here's Duke Power. Price action pretty stagnant for utility, right? Not doing a whole lot. Look at the valuation. It's overvalued right now. Growth rate, sales growth rate, not too phenomenal. Let's see here. But I will say this, Duke, yeah, I think it was Duke. Duke has a lot of coal ash plants, or coal ash here, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania. You remember the article I shared with you guys where they're trying to filter out coal ash for rare earth minerals, right? Worth billions of dollars. Well, guess who owns a lot of this coal ash? Duke. And they got a whole lot of this stuff that they haven't wanted to pay to clean up. And I get it, because it's probably not cheap to do so. But now they got a good reason to clean it up, right? And that's going to be rare earths, critical minerals, things of that nature. So we'll see how that story develops as well. All right, let's close out of here. I do want to go to the industry viewer. You can see semiconductors. Look at that. Semiconductors is on the rise. I like it. Full body candlestick. Let's take a look at gold. I want to see what gold is doing right now. Currency other. It's going to be the cryptos. Crypto still moving up a little bit. Let's get back above that 20-day EMA before I get too excited on some crypto stuff. Obviously Circles is running, and Hood and Coinbase. But if you're playing, just pure crypto plays, we're going to probably get some more confirmation here very soon to the upside. Let's see. Where is transportation? No, that's right. No. All right, slide down here. Transportation, shipping. See if we're getting that optimism there. No there. Petroleum. Let's see what's going on with petroleum stocks here. I don't think those geopolitical plays are going to come to fruition. If I'm going to do any of these here, I'm going to do the production pipeline. Production pipeline actually showing a little bit of momentum to the upside here. It is back above the 20-day EMA, but let's switch this over to the sector. Petroleum. Yeah, it's still pretty flat here. In general, if I use a horizontal line, you can see the consolidation points that's in. So if you are going to play petroleum, I'd wait, for a breakout here in the sector. You got about 31.13 on the upside and about $28.74, $29. Oh, let me pull this out a little bit more. Yeah, about mid 20s here on the downside of this channel. So keep that in mind. But again, look, price action on the decline, value on the decline, growth rate earnings on the decline, earnings per share on the decline. So again, if the geopolitical didn't make a pop in petroleum, the whole Iranian conflict, I just can't get that excited about this space right now. All right, let's go over to the... All right, so we're going to do your picks. In honor of Glenn, we're just going to do a solid 20. I'm not even going to look at the likes, but starting next week, we will be going off the likes. So make sure you hit that like button going forward here. Ryan, what's driving the market so high today? Well, I definitely think that the fall in treasury yields are definitely helping the tech stocks. ABB says drill, baby, drill. Yeah, it's pushing oil. I mean, he says it like every week that he wants low oil prices, right? Flood the market with oil. We need cheap energy to help out with inflation, which I agree with. And, ultimately that's going to affect the earnings for these companies. And we're seeing that take place. All right, we got AMD here, GTLS. And again, thank you, VV Nation, for just bearing with me today. Sorry I don't seem quite as lively. Just this, I'm calling it vertigo. I don't know, but I popped my ear, for my ear pressure, and it just hasn't been the same since. So I did manage to get some medicines here from some coworkers. Very nice of them. And then we'll, hopefully I don't fall asleep. I got some Benadryl, some motion sickness. I got ibuprofens. I just took a handful of goodies and kind of power through here. GNRC, PAYS, SMCI. I do like SMCI right now. TGEN, GNRC. Oh, wait. GNRC. There we go. I guess I hit the wrong button. GNRC. Oh, it's already in the list, duh. I think is CLS in there? No. Celestica. We'll take a look at Celestica here. ISSC. Let me scroll down and get caught up with the stocks here. ISSC, IESC. Here's the next one. PSIX. Bill says, go home, Ryan. Don't worry. I'm going to go home real soon, Bill. I got nothing scheduled for this afternoon except under my covers and resting. And just, let this medicine do its thing. But I have a feeling I know what it's from. Not too long ago in the lake, we actually got a bloom algae alert right after I went in the lake. So I don't know if that's messing with my ear right now, but we'll get it figured out. All right, 21 pounds. You got one extra on me. Let me see if there's any honorable mentions from any other stocks you got here. I do like APH. I'm going to throw APH in here. I told Joey we're not going to do an hour today, but I always go over our hour. And he was like, we'll see about that. Let's see here. SoFi. I do want to do SoFi. I've done some videos on them in the past. All right, those are the two honorable mentions here. I have had a really bad case of vertigo. I know what you are going through. It took me several days to recover. Oh, yeah, it's miserable. Ryan, VectorVest is showing contradicting signals. Daily card shows full green, while MTI shows 1.4, indicating caution about. No, Haas. It's not showing, because they're two different signals, right? The Greenlights is just showing me, hey, the market's continuing to march higher, right? All of those indicators are higher than they were yesterday. They're higher than they were 5 days ago, right? That's exactly what the lights and the color guard tells us. The MTI tells us, doesn't tell, but gives us a sense of that upside, downside potential, right? John says you might need an antibiotic if you got an ear infection. Yes, I do have sensitive ears, so I have a feeling that's the route. And hopefully I don't have to go to the doctors tomorrow. What was I saying? Oh, yes. The MTI is just showing me the simplest way to put it, especially if you're new to VectorVest, just something to compare it to. It's like RSI for the market, right? It shows me overbought, historically oversold, right? So just like, when you look at RSI on a stock, and RSI is, 83, right? It's in overbought territory. But it doesn't mean that the market or the stock can't keep going up, right? It does mean that, it can keep going up. But, if you get a primary wave down, especially a DEW down, because primary wave could be a little, there's a lot of volatility in the market. You can get tricked out with that. If you're a day trader, if you're a very quick, active swing trader, primary wave's not a bad thing. But if you're more of a longer-term swing trader, a couple weeks, couple months, try to get the big swing, look at that DEW. We are still in a DEW up signal right now. So, yes, it's showing me that, buying a stock now has got less upside potential, a little bit more downside risk than if I was purchasing stocks about a month ago or 2 months ago and the MTI was at much lower levels, right? So I'm not saying that you can't buy a stock and it go up. Very well could, especially right now. But just know that could be shorter lived, right? Steve Chappell always says there could be some chop in the market, which we saw. Was that last week or the week before when the primary wave went down? It's a little bit of chop in the market. So that would be like the easiest way I can explain, the difference between MTI and just those coordinated lights within the color guard. All right. So as far as our stocks here, RV, we're going to start out with RV here. For my long-term traders, these are probably stocks to have on your radar. We got Pitney Bowes, PBI. I'm not even sure what that does. I'm curious. That's a new one. Let's bring this over here, right click. Pitney Bowes, global shipping and mailing company, which engages in the provision of technology, logistics, and financial services, operates through global e-commerce, Presort Services, and Syntech Solutions. Interesting. Okay. We've been talking about, shipping and, if the Iranian conflict is last time with the Houthis and everything, shipping stocks were a good one. This might be, low key. I don't think it has to do much with Iran, but this got a lot of momentum and I like what I see there in the space. HIMS up 9%. I still like HIMS. You know, you saw the sell off there with HIMS. I want to look at the chart here when it comes to HIMS. Let's see here. I want to do, because sometimes the easiest thing to do. All right. Oh, I don't want to look at price action, even though I just realized it's still showing me where it's at. But I'm going to say probably the first level of support is going to be around this zone here. Second level, probably right here. Yeah, because you got this touch. You got touches from over here. Now if we go back, we're in there, right? So if we get resistance, if we get rejection here at 46, you know, if you're thinking about, you know, buying the dip here, at least take out today's upper wick. But we went quickly from a sell to a hold recommendation. Still below the 20-day EMA. The stock's so overvalued. I know it was all about the licensing deal or conflict with Novo Nordisk. So just you know, keep that in mind that the damage might not be over. But a real nice level of support that I see is actually just right below where it's trading now, around $38 to $34. You need a good nap, feel better. Thank you. They make postage machines. Interesting. Okay. All stocks show 2-digit GRT. Wow. These stocks, we'll take a look at them. But yeah, as far as HIMS, I'd see a little bit more confirmation to the upside. And if we do get some confirmation to the upside, I mean, you got a whole big gap fill here to play, right? Even if it doesn't fill the whole gap, it might get, you know, closer to the gap here, but you're probably looking, you know, maybe upwards to $50 to $51 here, you know, if we can get into that gap fill situation. Otherwise, I mean, sales growth rate 111%, growth rate earnings 50%. I do see some life in the valuation here a little bit. It's moving around. So HIMS overvalued, but with the sell-off right now, you know, I can't get too much behind it. If you are going to bottom fish, or, you know, I would start with a small position size and look for confirmation from there, okay? HIMS announced new CPO product. Oh, okay. Interesting. Maybe that's why it's popped a little bit. But I could see what is the high to get it more accurate rather than just drawing a little line there. The high right here, 46.34, and the high right here, 46. So yeah, you're looking about 46 and some change right now. We're at 45.60. I'd look for some confirmation above there. All right, let's close out of this here. But yeah, some good stocks you guys get. Chart Industries, GTLS. A lot of every stock, one stock here. Wait, yeah, top 25. Only one stock with an RV below 1. And a lot of these names here, you know, Generic Holdings, TGN, you know, a lot of these holdings here are not, you know, well-known names. You know, obviously, you know, AMD, UAMY, some of these other ones are Supermicro, HIMS. But definitely, you know, check out some of these stocks. Now let's look at some safety here, especially with the MTI at elevated levels. I'd like to get a little bit lower volatility stocks, you know, generally speaking here. But look, CLS at the top of the list, safest stock. IESE, AMD, Amphenol, right? Supermicro has got a high RS rating here. So keep some of these in your mind if you're looking for safety in your portfolio, right? RT relative timing. The ones at the top, you know, especially say like a 1.7, 1.8 or higher, those are fast movers there, right? You can see a lot of, follow through. Oh yeah, I definitely got an ear pop on that one. A lot of follow through to the upside on this. The only one that's not is APH, but Hood's up 1%, Paysign up 5%. So yeah, a lot of good momentum trades here. As far as CI ratings, you know, for high momentum trades, ones with CIs less than 1, which these are going to be the ones less than 1 towards the top of the list here. And obviously, they go down a little bit more after SMCI. I'd be a little bit more cautious on here. And I do realize that 2 of these are semiconductors, right? Because a lot of these semiconductors, you know, haven't been hitting new highs. AMD and SMCI are 2 of those, right? You know, they had a little bit of a rough patch recently. You know, NVIDIA's carrying forward with new highs. So is Broadcom, but these 2 are not, and you can see the CIs reflecting in that. Let's see here. Now, as far as ones with the lowest RT or relative timing, you look at HIMS and HERS, UAE, or sorry, not UAE, UAMY, Merrick's Group 1.06. These are the ones. You know, especially if you're bullish right now, the RT relative timing just went negative on both of these two. So let's actually we'll look at the charts here in just a moment. Look at these growth rates. You are lying. I mean, they're double digits across the board here. All of these look really good. You know, there's a couple down here. Is this an ETF? No. Oh, that is an ETF. Okay, yeah, ETF's Palladium. This one here. So out of all of these stocks here, Pitney and Interdigital are the only ones with, you know, negative on them, but they're just sales growth rates. Earnings growth rate still positive. I mean, overall, this is actually not a bad list of stocks. You know, if you're looking for some candidates here, take a screenshot, make your own watch list. But there are some good stocks here, well-diversified list of stocks. You know, a lot of different spaces here. If I scroll over to the right, do auto fit. Yeah, we got everything from electrical, defense, a lot of electronic and electrical coming up. Building, computer, bank, office, petroleum, mining, software. So a lot of big, you know, industries and sectors to keep your eyes out on. Let's take a look at some of the charts here. All right, look at that. CLS becoming fully valued now. Great undervalued opportunity here. But as of right now, looks like it broke out of this resistance zone where the prior high was. A little bit indecision in the candlestick today. Let's go to a 1 month chart. You can see the upper wick appear here. If I get a pullback, I'm looking at the retest level around 143. Otherwise, it's still above the 20-day EMA, so I like it. I like it. Ryan, they are good stocks because you and Glenn taught us how to find good stocks. Yes, but we showed you how to utilize the VectorVest 7 system to find those good stocks. The VectorVest 7 system, you know, really, you know, it's time tested. You know, Micron used to be one of the top VST stocks a while back, and that's when it was first on my radar, and that's several years ago. And you can see the Micron just exploding right now. But, you know, that top VST and just the proprietary indicators in general can, you know, point you in the right direction of good stocks. Look at that. I mean, this stock just rocking and rolling to the upside. As long as it's above that 20-day EMA, stock looks like it's going to print you some money. Value on the rise. Price action on the rise. Growth rate. Earnings on the rise. Earnings per share. The only thing flat, sales growth rate, but it's flat at 104%. So, flat at 104% is not a bad indication at all. Here we've got Hood, still above that 20-day EMA. It's just overvalued. You know, a lot of the retail traders, you know, investors are just willing to pay a premium right now for exposure to Hood. Hey, it is what it is. As long as it stays above that 20-day EMA, it's making you money, right? But as far as forecasted data, both earnings and sales on the decline. Our earnings per share, though, is nice, very nice. But AI is pushing these chips off. Yes. Well, I said that before, that chips are cyclical in nature. Really, just the semiconductor industry in general. But the AI has kind of pushed that cyclical nature down the road. And there was 2 years ago where a lot of those semiconductors were flat, not doing a whole lot when the interest rate hikes were going on. But now with the interest rate cuts, the rise of AI, we're in a cut cycle still, even though it hasn't been since last fall since they made a cut. We're still in a cut cycle, and all that's going to be good for semiconductors. And even, you know, growth speculative plays like Hood, right? You know, lower interest rates, you know, take a little bit more risk in nature. Here's APH. Nice price action to the upside. We're hitting a high right now, currently trading at 97.06. Stock is overvalued, but valuation on the rise. All the forecasted data on the rise. Look at RT relative timing. That gave us a sense that the short-term price trend went favorable. As early as April 23rd, and the close that day was $71, and now we're pushing up closer to $100 at $97.10 right now. So I do like that one. Pay sign, again, nice momentum to the upside. Valuation, seeing a little life here. GRT, sales, all the stuff's on the rise. RT relative timing's been favorable since May. I like what I see here. 95% of electronic devices now used all forms of memory. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. Just because the devices have changed in nature, you know, over the last decade or two. Well, here's SoFi. You can see, look at my levels of resistance here. You see I got some levels here coming up. Nice little channel here. Looks like it broke out to the upside of that channel if I extend it. I was talking about this before. We just broke out of that channel, went right up here. The highest level resistance, probably put right here, which is going to be about 17 bucks. You're not that far away from it. So again, if we start to see some rejection or a big upper wick forming here, taking profits getting defensive, not a bad idea. But otherwise, if we do get a pullback, look for the retest on the top of this channel, this ascending channel here. Here's COHR. Again, look at this. Undervalued position, price action on the rise, value on the rise. Using that 20-day EMA, nice level support, forecasted data. Overall, pretty good. Growth rate earnings, 34%. Sales growth rate, 27%. Even the RT relative timing and favorable territory now since May. So, yeah, that's another good stock. PSIX. That's my favorite chart pattern. So, and it looks like we might even, it can't be a bullish engulfing because of the open. But I do like what I see here. Coher moving up on the shelf. Nice. Yes, I do like that. Even this position here. This is machinery in the industrial sector. Forecast data, earnings growth rate. It's still phenomenal numbers in the 30s for both categories, sales and growth rate. Earnings per share on the rise. Relative timing in favor. Let's go to a 1-year chart here. Yeah, it's hitting new highs. Now this is a big mover. This stock was $2. Now it's $7.45. You see, stock was greatly undervalued. Rising growth rate, rising sales growth rate recently. RT favorable. RT went favorable. 247. Now it's trading at 745. Those are big numbers here. Big numbers. Carnival, rocking and rolling. Value on the rise, price action on the rise. The forecasted data, not spectacular, but with rising earnings, a favorable RT, and a nice uptrend above that 20-day EMA, both of these rising. Yeah, I'd put Carnival on your list here. You can't always be heavy loaded, in tech or AI, those kind of stocks, semis. Carnival's not a bad one to consider. Here's IESE, building company here. Again, same thing as Carnival. Price action on the rise, value on the rise, nice strong buy rating, RT above 1, rising earnings, forecasted data is faltering, but still double digits respectively. So I do like this. Generally speaking, swing trade or even, potential longer term trade as long as it's managed right. Yes, bought a buy right on CCL today. And Michael, you make up a good point here. If the MTI is elevated, and, even if the market's got a little bit of a run into it, because I've been talking about that July high, right? I've been talking about that the last few streams. I think we're going to hit that, right? I think, next week is July, and the market's, pretty close. So unless it sells off tomorrow or Monday before we hit July, I think we're probably going to get a July high in some of these major indices. We're marching that direction right now. But again, same scenario as the last few stocks. Forecasted data on the decline, but rising earnings, rising price, rising value. I like what I see here. AMD, there's another position here. Now it's becoming fairly valued, but was once greatly undervalued. It's still rocking and rolling to the upside. Look, is that a... Now, if we get into about halfway that body, we got a potential dark cloud cover coming, right? Right at our valuation. So keep that in mind, especially if we get follow through, if that were to occur, right? But if we get that upper wick higher than yesterday's candlestick, I'm showing buying pressure, and I still like AMD. Here's SMCI, which has finally got the confirmation I was looking for. Remember this level here I've been talking about? And boom, look at it now. Value's been on the decline, right? But look at value now. It's starting to trickle up. And I get really excited with this valuation because it's past the prior high, which comes in around 72 bucks. And right now it's just shy of 70. So we're starting to see value, potentially making a turn to the upside. Price action, that turn has already occurred here. You can see my level of resistance, nice full body candlesticks. The only thing I like about this, look at the forecasted data. It's all on the decline. Even the earnings per share, 30 and 19% respectively. I like the position. It's greatly undervalued. It's an important stock, especially in the AI data center race. The only thing is if it breaks above this, maybe look out for the retest and the pivot. Otherwise, this thing might just launch and, get some momentum behind it. New holdings, undervalued for the most part over the last 5 months. Let's just go to 6 months here. I don't like this upper wick yesterday. It's a foreign bank. Yeah, I can't get too excited about it right now. But I do like that buying pressure. It's fairly valued. Buy ratings. Forecasted data, pretty mixed, 30, 20% respectively. If you're in it, I'd like to see price action stay above 1276, around that range. Here's PBI. This is beautiful. Look at this. Beautiful. Lower left, upper right. A lower left, upper right. Yeah, a little bit of a dip here. And most of that was during the time of the tariff concerns, so the general market selling off, so not too concerned by that. But as of right now, we're using that 20-day EMA as level support, and we just got a nice bounce off of it this week. Full body candlestick today. I like what I see here. Growth rate and earnings, 36%. Sales growth rate, that's going to be my one red flag here, negative 5%. Rising earnings, rising RT. Can't be mad at it. This one I don't like. It only took me 2 seconds to realize that. Value on the decline. Price action on the decline. Now, if you're coming at me with just a nice swing trade here, hey, I get that. Maybe look at this level for resistance. Look at this trend line. Look at, what do we got here? Ascending channel. Woohoo! Hopefully this helps you. But this is an ascending channel. You know me, I call it ping pong, right? You're just playing ping pong. Right now we're back on a ping. Right now we got some confirmation on that ping. Just broke above the 20-day EMA. Full body candlestick. Just by looking at this this candlestick here, I mean, it doesn't look like there's much selling pressure today. Yeah, we're trading at session highs here. I do like this position. It's undervalued as well, right? So yeah, this is this one I put on your radar. GTLS, petroleum company. It is petro, so just be careful with petro right now. But other than that, I actually do like this chart itself, okay? RT relative timing remained above 1 and starting to curl back up here at 1.57. We value at 234, trading at 161. Yeah, I like this in general. As far as forecasted data, 5%. You know, for a petroleum company, you know, those aren't horrible numbers by any means. They're not horrible numbers. Here's PALS, the ETF palladium. Look at this thing rocketing. This is a commodity palladium. Yeah, it is. Here we go. I'm not surprised by that. Any kind of minerals are they're the key right now. Oh, there you go. This gets interesting here. Let's see where this is a key level, right? Oh no, this will be my key level right here. Boom. If we give too much pullback on this, right now we're at 104. But if we get much below that 102, I mean the thing was at $85. Now you're over 100. Was about 20% roughly speaking. You know, I wouldn't get too greedy, but yeah, if we get some rejection here, because again, this will be my level of resistance. This is the bottom. You know, probably the top of this zone, probably right in here, which is right where we're getting that upper wick. You know, it's no cakewalk. Going to walk the dog now. Hope you get better. Ryan, thanks for the info today. Of course, Ultra Magnus. What time is it? 3:03. Yeah, we're about to roll out of here. Let me just got last few stocks here. I mean, that's beautiful. Look, and the fact that we're seeing value ticking up. My favorite chart pattern. This is, you know, the infant stage of it. Above the 20-day EMA. As far as some resistance here, probably look. Oh, this one's a good one right here. I'm going to put my main resistance around 152. About $10 away, all right? Here we go. Price action on the rise. Value on the rise. It's overvalued. But look at sales growth rate's negative 20%. Growth rate earnings 21%. Can't get too excited from this position here. To be honest, if you're in this position, if you've been holding this for a while, I mean, there's the long-term trend. I would just make sure it stays above this trend line here. As long as it stays above that trend line, I'll be a little bit more optimistic. If it breaks it, clearly it's going to break that 20-day EMA first. So be careful. Let's see here. Slide down at MRX. MRX, I see I had a little zone here. It looks like price action caught the lower end of that zone. We're just waiting for confirmation here. If you're already in it, if you did some bottom fishing here, might see some optimism. But we got full body candlestick. Let's just see price action get back above that 20-day EMA. To trade your chart and never be afraid to take profits. Powell looks ripe, very ripe. Trade your chart. Yes, I agree with that. Look, price action starting to rise higher than the prior low. Value on the rise. Earnings per share on the rise. Actually do like this position. You know, we're about to get that confirmation. 20-day EMA. We just surpassed it. So that's good for the bulls there. UAMY. Big mover. Let's see here. I want to get it back above that 20-day EMA. We're getting close. It's still got the sell recommendation, but look at value. I mean, this value just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. You know, I'd say I'm still a big believer in UAMY, the rare earths, things like that. But again, if we get a deal with China, that's going to put some selling pressure on those stocks, right? And that's probably when the really good opportunities can present themselves, potentially, if there's not that deal. All right, we got HIMS. We talked about HIMS. Again, I'm looking for the gap fill here. If we get into the gap, that target brings me about $51. We can break above this level of resistance here. The gap itself. It's a big gap, $61, right? Again, the stock is overvalued. Be careful there. But the forecasted data, all of it seems phenomenal. Growth rate, sales growth rate, earnings per share. I like what I see with this stock. And as I mentioned before, you know, as far as, you know, buying stocks right now, doing a buy right, not a bad idea. Put a little insurance on your stock, especially if you're thinking more of a longer term position rather than just a quick swing trade. You know, selling a call when you buy the position, you got to have 100 shares of it, and that can make your, you know, position a little bit cheaper, especially if the market does pull back. But as of right now, I think we're going to march right into July, get those July highs, and then we'll see if the market gets jitters as we get closer to some of these deadlines. You know, as far as recession data, with GDP coming out next month, another inflation report, you know, coming out next month, but also the Chinese tariff situation. All right, guys. Well, I think it's time for me to get some rest. I'm glad I was here to at least help you, get you caught up with what's going on in the market. But again, check out tonight's video on Micron. I go way more than just what the chart is telling us. I actually, you know, try to explain what the company's doing, why it's positioned well, and some growth opportunities within the industry and within what it's contributing to the AI revolution going forward. All right, guys, everybody, enjoy your afternoon. Send some prayers for Glenn. Maybe give me a prayer. But I will, as of right now, I will plan to see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to get some rest, make some money out there in the market, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay, take care.